Thank you so much for joining me on the way forward. I'm Eddie Francis, and joining me from LSU Health New Orleans is Dr. Stephen Nelson. He's the Chancellor of LSU Health. And good afternoon, Chancellor. How are you?
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for joining me on the radio show. And so, when people think about higher education in Southeast Louisiana, I think that we tend to kind of blow over some of our medical facilities and the contributions that they make as far as higher education is concerned. And so, if you were to describe the impact of LSU Health to Southeast Louisiana, how would you describe it?
Sure, great question. Actually, I would put it in the broader context to the whole state of Louisiana. So we're actually the largest academic health science center in the state. There are about 44 to 50 buildings, about 5 million square feet of office and lab space. We're on about 80 acres. So we have a big footprint in the city of New Orleans. Lots of people don't realize we have 6 schools under the Health Science Center. Each of those 6 schools have a dean. I'm the chancellor over all those 6 schools. So the oldest school is the School of Medicine. That started in 1931. We take about 800 students in total, about 200 a year. Then the next school we started was graduate studies, then dentistry. We have the only dental school actually in the state of Louisiana. That takes about 400, 450 students over the 4 years. Then in I think it was about 1968, we started the nursing school. And a lot of people don't realize that our nursing school has consistently been ranked in the top 10 nursing schools in the United States of America. And if you look at public nursing schools, that is part of a public university, we rank 4 in the United States of America. And the nursing school takes a total of about 1,000 students over its different programs. Then we have allied health, and the most recent new school is public health. And it's my recollection that we have the only public state supported school of public health actually in the state of Louisiana. So we have a very big footprint here. When people think about, well, students, we have just about 3,000 students. Most of our students are professional students, medicine, dental, graduate studies, and then we're about 30% more or less undergraduate. Many of them are in our nursing program. Many times people ask me, well, how many state people do you take, state residents? And again, the majority of our programs, we're a state institution, we're part of the flagship. So 85% or more of our students are residents of Louisiana. Differs a little bit between the schools, but roughly 15% are from out of state. The idea of out of state is we take particularly exceptional students to enrich the student body. And many of those students actually wind up staying here. In terms of how many people we employ, I think probably with our faculty and staff, it's about 2,500 if I had to guess. And then I know everybody talks about the economic impact to the city, and last I heard it was about $2 billion. So it's pretty sizable and creates about 9,000 jobs. So you can see we have a pretty big footprint in this state. The most important part of this, from my point of view, is that we really provide the healthcare workforce for this state. And I don't think many people realize that. You drive by an interstate, you see LSU Health, we're near the Superdome, you see the signs and stuff. And like you pointed out, we just started this conversation, not many people know who we are and what we do. So that's also been part of branding the buildings. And in one of your emails to me, you said you noticed the branding of the buildings, just to tell people who we are and where we are. But we really provide the workforce, healthcare workforce for the state. So if you look at the number of physicians in this state, the practice in this state that came through our facility, it's about 60%. 60% of the doctors in this state practicing came through LSU Health. So next time you're in your doctor's office, look and see where that degree says. And I'm pretty sure it's going to say LSU Health New Orleans. Now, Shreveport also contributes to that, and so does Tulane, but we're the majority of contributing to that number of people. And then for dentists, since we're the only dental school, it's 75% of the dentists in this state trade in our facility. So we really provide the healthcare workforce for you and everybody else in the state. When I testify in front of the legislature, I usually point out to the person asking me a question that the likelihood is that I'm training your doctor right now,
Yeah.
and that really is the case. And the reason this is so important Lots of people think that, well, if I get ill or whatnot, I can maybe go to Houston or I can go to, or, one of the other nearby facilities. But, when you're having a heart attack, you're having a stroke, you're in a car accident, you're going to the nearest facility, and you better hope that's a well-trained LSU doctor. So again, one of the phrases I like to say is, I'm sure you heard that, the heartbeat of Louisiana.
Yeah.
Well, we keep the heartbeat beating. That's what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
That answer your question?
It does answer my question, and it's so funny how close home it hits for me because just as you were talking, I was thinking about a cousin of mine who's a cardiologist who got his MD from LSU, and so
Who's your cousin?
Lance Lamott, Doctor
Oh,
Lance Lamott.
yeah. So we really do train the majority. And then when you think about, so what happens with, let's just use our medical students for example. So we have about 200 students each year. It's a 4-year program. Then when they finish their 4-year program, they then go do their residency, whether it's in medicine, cardiology, surgery, whatever happens to be. So the question then becomes is how many of those students elect to stay in the state of Louisiana to do their residency program? So remember, you go to medical school for 4 years, you do your internship and residency, and usually depends, but most of the time where you do your residency very frequently winds up where you wind up settling long term. So in order to have a large presence in Louisiana, we would like most of our graduating students to stay in the state to do their residency. We have actually one of the largest residency programs in the United States, about 900 residents. So if you look at this last class that graduated and then where they went for the resident, it was about 52% of those 52% that stayed in Louisiana to do their residency training. 80% of those stayed in one of our programs. So that tells you the quality of our program. Now, if you compare that to Tulane, it's about 15 or 16%. And the reason I point that out is Tulane, and I have an appointment at Tulane. I also have an appointment at Oxnard. I work with everybody. But, Tulane is a slightly different organization. They take students from all over the country. So, about 15% of those students that go to their school, when they decide where to go to their residency, about 15, 16% stay, and that's good. But majority of those people, are not from here. Many of them go home. That's why so many of the doctors in the state actually trained in one of our facilities, either in New Orleans, but my sister health science center, LSU, is in Shreveport, which also retains somewhere around 45 to 50% of their students as well.
And so you mentioned Tulane, and if you're going downtown, you're getting off the interstate at the Superdome exit. This big partnership logo hits you: LSU Health and Tulane Medicine, and so it's on the LCMC facility downtown. So can you talk a little bit more about that partnership and its importance?
That took me about a year and a half to get those signs up.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the building in East Jeff, so what happened was, and I have an appointment at Tulane. Tulane's a great school, great medical school. I'm friends with the dean, lots of great people there. Um, so when LCMC, which is the parent Louisiana Children's Medical Center, they bought out essentially Tulane's hospital, Tulane Medical Center. And in that building, they're going to have some research, administration. I think they're going to start a nursing school as well. So now, whether it be in UMC, which is University Medical Center, the sort of replacement facility for charity, that is about both LSU and Tulane doctors. The ratio of LSU to Tulane doctors there is somewhere about maybe 60% LSU, 40% Tulane, maybe two-thirds, one-third. East Jeff is where a large number of the Tulane physicians now practice. Now, if you go to East Jeff, you'll see Tulane Health Medical Center on top of that building, and then we're below that. Okay, so it's the flip. The important thing to realize is that both Tulane and LSU are stronger and better for the state when we work together.
Yeah.
Right? And I always say Tulane is not my competition. UAB is my competition. University of Texas is my competition. And so we want to build programs together with Tulane. And Lee Ham is the dean at Tulane, and our dean of medical school here is Dr. DiCarlo, and we talk all the time about working together. So, for example, which is sort of a harsh example, but think about the New Year's Day terrorist attack,
Yeah.
right? 14 people died, 57 or so of those people were injured. Where did they take the majority of those patients? They took them to UMC,
Yeah.
because UMC is the only level 1 trauma center here. And in the trauma center, it's led now by Dr. Allison Smith, but that is a program that has both the best of LSU and the best of Tulane working together to provide the best of care to the citizens of this state. So again, the point here is the more we work together, the better. Another program that we work together on is the burn center. So people don't realize we have one of the best burn centers in the United States of America. Unfortunately, burns are very common, both in automobile accidents and things like that. So we recruited Jeffrey Carter many years ago. He's the leader of that. He was just president of the American Burn Association. And that too is a program where we work together. The other new area where we're working together with Tulane and our other partners in the state, be they Oxnard or Xavier, is to go what I call the NCI designation of center. So NCI is the National Cancer Institute. If you're an NCI designated cancer center, you theoretically provide the best of cancer care that's available. So I'll give you an example. MD Anderson is a NCI designated cancer center. University of Alabama in Birmingham is an NCI designated cancer center. There's 73 in the United States. There isn't one in Louisiana, there isn't one in Mississippi, and there isn't one in Arkansas. And when you look at our numbers for cancer, we have about 30,000, 35,000 new cases of cancer in this state every year. Over 10,000 people die. So one of the things that we're trying to work together with our partners, be they Tulane, Oxnard, Xavier, everybody else, is to get an NCI designated cancer center here in Louisiana, which would be based initially probably at University Medical Center and Children's Hospital. And the reason that's important is that those centers provide the best of care in cancer. Also does research, and remember, research is an economic engine for the state. Every dollar you bring in a research grant has a threefold impact in terms of the economy.
Yeah. A
And you
lot of
have
people don't
access
realize
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
you have access to clinical trials. So the point is, I'm an ICU doctor by training, so I'm not a cancer doctor, but I realize that having an NCI designated cancer center in this state will transform healthcare in this state. Because what happens is when you improve cancer care, there's a halo effect. So all other disciplines get better as well. And that's why this is such an important endeavor. To me, I say Louis, because I'm a Yankee, I've been here 41 years, so I consider myself from Louisiana, but Louisiana used to do big things, right? Built the Superdome, built the Causeway. This is the next big thing that will drive healthcare, the economy, the biotech industry, everything else. So it's very, very important. And again, it's an example, and I think that's what you were getting at, how we can work together.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, it's refreshing. I think one of the things that the general public does not necessarily realize is the importance of our institutions of higher learning partnering with one another to really address some of the major issues. And what you just talked about is actually a perfect example of the powerhouses of the state really getting together. Now, one of the things that I was kind of surprised to see on the website is that I definitely knew about doctoral programs at LSU Health, but I was surprised to see that there's a range that starts with even an associate degree. And so, what are some of the besides cancer? What are some of the other major health challenges that LSU Health addresses through academic programming?
So when you think of the three biggest areas in terms of health, it's really cancer, cardiorespiratory, neuroscience. Those are really the big three. And we have centers of excellence in all of those disciplines. And we have strong clinical programs in that as well. And some of them are programs together we have with our Tulane partners as well. But I think the other point you're trying to get at is that we don't only just train physicians, we train the healthcare workforce.
Yes.
And I think this was really showed when COVID hit, when we found out there was a shortage of nurses, there was a shortage of respiratory therapists, there was a shortage of physical therapists, all the other support people that makes everything work, right? And so that's why one of the other things which I've been trying to do together with the other leadership at LSU, probably now the interim president, Matt Lee, is to do what we call branch programs across the state. So not only are we trying to have nursing programs, which we do in New Orleans, but we started a nursing program in Shreveport. We're going to start a nursing program in Baton Rouge. We have a dental hygiene program in Alexandria. We might start one in Lake Charles or Lafayette. And so in order to sort of have the impact in all those diseases that have such a toll of the citizens in our state, it's not just doctors and dentists, it's all the other people that support them to make this work. And the other thing I think what you're getting at is that not everybody is going to wind up being a doctor or a dentist, right? And so, when I started college, I was an English major. I took science courses because I thought they would be entertaining and fun. And then I realized I love science, and and people gave me opportunity, and I wound up going to medical school. So the other thing that we try to do, which I think is so important for this state, is to have young people see that there's a career path for them in healthcare. So you don't necessarily have to be a doctor or a dentist, but if you want to, that's great. And we wanted to show you what that's like. But we have lots of pipeline programs in the community, specifically in New Orleans, but also the surrounding areas where we bring people in. And I think you commented once about that. It was called Pathways to Nursing in one of your emails to me. And so Pathways to Nursing, what is that? So again, how can you, if you're a college, a high school student, junior high school student, how do you decide what you think you're interested in or not? It's hard to do that if you've never been exposed to it. So we take children as little as in preschool, almost some of the programs, and K to 12, junior high, high school, at different levels, different programs, but we bring them on our campus and show them what it's like to be a doctor, a nurse, a respiratory therapist, whatever that is. And the specific program that you referenced to is for high school students. I think it's usually sophomores and juniors. We bring them on campus for about a week, and we show them about the possibility of careers in nursing. And there's all different types of careers in nursing, from a BSN, BA, all the way to a nurse practitioner. And it's a week course. They do hands-on lectures, get mentors, and again, show them there is a path for them if this is something what we want to do. The other thing we just did last week was we had about 100 students come from the main campus that are just about in Baton Rouge, that are just about to start their coursework in the fall. And we bring them, and actually this was organized by, I can't remember the individual at the main campus, but just to show them the range of possibilities for them career-wise. We had 100 of these students spent the better part of Friday with us, and we had representatives from all the different schools, including the students, to talk to them about possible careers in healthcare. Again, it's hard for somebody to dream something if you don't know what that means. So we're very much in terms of creating pipelines and opportunities for people in this city and in this state.
You're listening to The Way Forward. I'm Eddie Francis, and we're talking to Dr. Stephen Nelson. He is the Chancellor of LSU Health Sciences Center in New Orleans. And this is part of the Advancing Southeast Louisiana series. And so, you mentioned a little bit earlier about how you have so many alumni who touch so many people. And I have been one of those people who has been in a doctor's office, and I've looked at the wall and I've seen the diploma that says LSU Medical. And so could you talk a little bit more about the contributions of alumni and the importance of having that alumni base that stays here in Louisiana and serves their community?
Well, again, the most obvious one is that they stay here to provide health care for the citizens of the state. But then they also become our best advocates, right? In terms of, so let me go at it from this way. So our budget now is about $1 billion, 1.1, 1.2. How much of that do you think are state general funds? If you had to guess, what percent?
Wow. If I had to be the state general funds, oh man, would I say maybe half of it?
Yeah, about 95 million.
Okay.
Okay, about 95 million. And then but that what you said is what most people would guess actually. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's less than 10%. And then, and it varies, it's sometimes a little lower, sometimes a little higher. And I'm not complaining about that. This is a number. Then we raise about another 65 million from tuition. And so how do we get that other, bunch of money. So one large part of that is philanthropy. And the reason I want to bring that up is that lots of people think because we're a state school that we're, paid like 50, 75%. That's just not the case. And that's not the way it is for most state schools now anyway. So alumni are very important, not only in terms of providing care in terms of their occupation, but also as a spokesperson to the legislature and to other philanthropic
Mm.
organizations to help raise money to do the sorts of things that we need to do. So right now, we're undergoing about $350 million dollars of infrastructure improvements on our campus. Everything from new research labs, we're renovating about 200,000 square feet of research labs. The reasons that's important, if you want to build your research infrastructure, and right now we're R2 Carnegie level research, there's only 5 in the state, we're one of them. If we want to attract more research dollars to the state, we have to have great facilities. I tell people recruiting a researcher from Duke or someplace else is this the same as recruiting a quarterback for the Tigers. You have to have great facilities, great coaching, and the opportunities. So that'll be finished in about December. We're also renovating the dental school. Again, the only dental school in the state. If we want to get the best students and keep them here, we have to have good facilities. And then we've renovated the old Hotel Dieu Hospital. I'm sure
Oh
many
yeah,
people are
yeah.
familiar with that. That was also the interim hospital after, Charity and Katrina, 20th anniversary coming up. And so in there we have classrooms, new simulation facilities. And so that $350 million dollars is made up from state, in terms of the money to do this, state resources, federal resources, philanthropy, and everything else. So there's the alumni are our best spokespeople and also are number one in terms of generating those philanthropic dollars.
So for you personally, you've been at LSU for quite some time. 41 years is what you told me that
That's
you've been
correct.
at LSU. And so what does it mean to you for someone whose career practically started there? What does it mean to you personally to be the chancellor now?
So it's funny. So I trained at Johns Hopkins,
Hmm.
and and they wanted me to stay at Johns Hopkins because I've been a funded researcher from the NIH my whole career. And I told the chief of medicine that I decided to come to LSU. And the chief of medicine at that time said, Steve, you just made the biggest mistake of your career. To which I said, thank you for those words of encouragement, sir. And I left. And the reason I left wasn't because I didn't care for Johns Hopkins. It was a wonderful place to train. I had a great experience there. I was there for almost 7 years, but I wanted to make a difference. Okay. And if I just stayed at a place like Johns Hopkins, there's 10,000, 12,000 people, I wasn't going to be able to have the same impact. Louisiana, to me, gave me the opportunity to have an impact on a population that really, needs improvement in terms of healthcare outcomes. So I wanted to go to a place where I can make a difference. When I recruit people to come here, and I probably recruited over 400, 500 doctors over my career here, there's 2 reasons they come here mostly. One is they have some connection here. A spouse is from the family. I've never been to a state where people love this state so much. So
Yeah.
you give them a reason to stay or an opportunity to come, they will come. But the other reason is they want to have an impact. They want to make a difference. There's a tremendous amount of underserved patients in this state. And so to me, that was always very important. The other thing to me is that, and I've been offered other positions in other universities over the years, but one of the reasons I also stay is not only to have an impact, but LSU and the state always gave me an opportunity to grow and to do something more. So I came as an assistant professor. I came up to be a full professor. Then I was head of research. Then I was the dean for 14 years, and now the chancellor. So it wasn't like I had a path that's absolutely I wanted to do, but opportunities afforded itself that allowed me to grow. And fortunately, I was surrounded by a lot of great, smart people that helped me in those roles. So to me, it's incredibly fulfilling. But as I tell everybody in this institution where I work at the Health Science Center, they don't work for me. I work for them. My job is to provide them the resources and the training that they need so that when they see you in the emergency room, or God forbid they see me in the emergency room laying on a stretcher, I know you're going to get, or I'm going to get the best care possible. And to me, that's very important. And I love the patients here. I mean, people here are warm, inviting. They love this place. And so, to me, Louisiana is home. My children are all born here, raised my family here. And I've been very grateful for the opportunity that LSU and this state has given me over the years.
Yeah. One thing it was one thing that was very interesting is that my wife and I, we had to pay a hospital visit once. And as we were leaving, she says to me, because my wife she's not from New Orleans, she's from North Carolina. And as we're leaving, she goes, New Orleans has got to have some of the most colorful patients in the country. I said, oh yeah, we are. We're pretty colorful. Even on a stretcher, we're very colorful.
And they're also incredibly endearing and grateful,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my years, I worked as an ICU doctor in Charity Hospital for the greater part of 15, 20 years. And even though the facilities itself, there was a lot of romanticism about Charity Hospital. And I understand that because I worked in the ICU there for many, many years. But what made that place special were the patients, the nurses, and the doctors that worked there. That's what made it special. I always said what charity meant really is charity means benevolent care. It's not about your station in life and whether you're poor or whether you're not, is that you get benevolent care regardless who walks through that door. To me, that's the tradition of Charity Hospital. And that's what made it so special.
Mm. So speaking of engaging with the community, I always like to end these conversations by asking leaders about how the community can engage with the institution. So what is the way forward for LSU Health New Orleans? How can people from the community engage more with the institution?
Again, a very, very good question. Part of it is just brand recognition. Again, one of your first emails to me was that you recognize the branding on the buildings. And a lot of people don't really know who we are or what we do. So part of it is for us to get the message out, who we are, what we do for New Orleans, and what we do for Louisiana. The other thing is that, I'm very sensitive to the town gown sort of stuff, as again, we're here to improve the health of the citizens we serve, be them in New Orleans or anywhere within the state region. I want LSU Health New Orleans to be known not only for New Orleans, but we help everybody east to west, north and south. The more we engage with the community, the more they know who we are, the better we'll be able to achieve our goal to lift the whole health ratings of this state. And so the more that we engage with the community, the more that they see that we're really there for them and that we want to help them move forward and they help us move forward in terms of support, we'll all get Louisiana to a better place. There's no reason why Louisiana has to have these poor rankings in healthcare. Together, we can make a difference.
Absolutely. Dr. Stephen Nelson is the chancellor of LSU Health Sciences Center in New Orleans. Dr. Nelson, thank you so much for joining me on the way forward.
It's my pleasure. Very nice. And if I can help in any way or clarify anything, I look forward to doing so. And I wish you a good day.